My initial reaction to the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra was both right and wrong at the same time. Gary, how do you square such a contradictory statement? Well, let's spend the next however many minutes doing just that. But before we get too far into the video, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, iFixit. You can learn how to fix just about anything at iFixit.com. Search through thousands of free repair guides and find the high-quality parts and precision tools to fix your phones, laptops, game consoles, and so much more. iFixit has just launched a brand new lineup of game console toolkits. So if you want to upgrade hard drives, conduct general maintenance, or want to learn more about how your system works, iFixit toolkits are an excellent way to keep your own tech good to go. Click the link below to save more on the tools you need to fix your tech. When I opened the box for this watch, I was pretty unimpressed. Well, I guess that's not an accurate statement. Being unimpressed implies that you had no emotional reaction. I was impressed at how much of a negative reaction my initial impression was. What's unique about the Galaxy Watch, though, is normally when I have that kind of a reaction, I'm probably not gonna make a follow-up video. I try out a bunch of tech that never makes it to this channel because I generally only talk about things that I've liked. Look, there is a ton of survivorship bias in the videos that get uploaded to the Everyday Dad. But I did swap to this away from my Apple Watch Ultra, and in the past week of use, it's starting to win me over. Let's quickly talk specs and ordering options if this is your first non-Apple Ultra Watch video. That made so much more sense when I typed it out. The Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra comes in at $649. For that money, you'll get a 1.5-inch 480 by 480 Super AMOLED display, included cellular connection, though you will have to pay extra to your carrier to use this, and a pretty beefy 590 milliamp hour battery. For price comparison, the Apple Watch Ultra Series 2 comes in at $799 for Apple's top-of-the-line smartwatch. And I guess since we're talking price, nobody, Samsung included, provided me this watch in any way, shape, or form. I paid for it with my own money. 300-word introduction out of the way. Gary, you are verbose sometimes. What have I liked and disliked about this watch? Well, for starters, it's hard to dislike much about it. If there was one thing in the past week that I just never really got into, it's the Marine Band. It has grown on me way more than I anticipated. I don't know why I wrote this, but I wrote I'm wearing it as I typed out the script because I was wearing this when I typed out the script. The band is kind of a lot, but the way that I've squared that in my head is that the whole watch is kind of a lot. So the Marine Band being like that is kind of on brand for the entire thing. They do have a trail option, and the trail loop for the Apple Watch Ultra is literally my favorite watch band ever made. But Samsung's trail loop has these loops inside of the loops going through it, which to me looks like it might be something hard to get dialed into your perfect fit. So I did not get this, and I stuck with the Marine Band. The bands aren't all a negative though. I have really liked the band latching mechanism. Look at that. Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing to like on a watch, but usually with smartwatches, you have a little sliding thing that happens, and that's fine, but I'm a frequent runner, and they get grimy after a while as sweat builds up, and it just, everything gets gross in here. It gets really hard to slide them in because eventually the mechanism gets gummed up. Here you just take them off and pop it back on. I love this. Maybe in the long term, there will be some problems here because the more parts in a mechanism, the more opportunities for failure, but at least in my quick week-long experiment, it's been working pretty well. I would have to say the thing that I've liked the most so far is the comfort of a watch. And that might not sound like a surprising thing. Watches and all products are not meant to cause pain or discomfort. I'm pretty sure that would lead to some pretty angry 1-star Amazon reviews. However, for me personally, I don't like big watches. I spent years wearing a big Casio solar-powered watch. And while I learned to live with it, and I wore it for years, I really just, after that, I can't really tolerate big watches. And this is a very big watch. Part of my problems in the last video was, when you look at this, it just does not look like the kind of watch that Gary would ever like. Color me surprised though that it's pretty darn comfortable. It does not feel nearly as big as it looks when you're wearing it. For some reason, it just naturally sits up a little higher on my wrist compared to where I normally wear my watches. I mean, look, you can see where I normally wear my watches by my very professional watch tan line right here. But this is so comfortable to wear, even with the Marine watch band. And those things together were not something I was expecting to say about either of these products. It holds up very well when doing activity outside in the heat and humidity. One of my fears was because of the size of this watch band that in use, it would feel very clammy and kind of gross. One of the reasons I dumped that big watch in the first place was the bigger the band, the grosser it feels for me after a little bit outdoors. Sure, that might be a me problem, but it is my video about my opinions. The next thing I've liked about the Galaxy Watch Ultra are the physical controls. This thing comes with 3 buttons on the side of the watch, with the big one in the middle being customizable. Longtime viewers will know that the one thing I hate about smartwatches, or I guess any tech in general, is when I have to hit a lot of buttons or I have to dig through menus or whatever. Like, a big reason that I have a smartwatch is to track my workouts, and if I have to click like 7 or 8 times before I can start my workout, I'm never going to use that. Here, much like the Apple Watch Ultra, you can set this up to quickly hit the center button and boom, your run tracking starts instantly. Despite the fact that tech is getting smaller and smaller and physical buttons are unfortunately going the way of the dinosaur, I very much prefer to have actual real buttons. That's not just watches, like in my truck too. I hate when things are all touchscreen. Just give me physical knobs and dials. Maybe that's one of my aging millennial opinions showing, much like an old man yelling at the cloud, it'll happen to you. Don't laugh, it'll happen to you. The top button is the back button and the bottom one is the Samsung Wallet button. I don't really use Samsung Wallet, but it's nice to know it's there. Something else, look, I've also really liked this display. I prefer circular watches. So Samsung's already in my good graces, and I guess the rest of the display is pretty nice too. But when the watch like wakes up out of its always on display kind of thing, you can see it as clearly as if you were in a dark room. It's not just the brightness of the screen though, but for a smartwatch, this is gigantic. This display has a ton of room, and because of that, you can very easily read messages, notifications, and something you might not think of, but like these little shortcut buttons, they can be really difficult to see on smaller watches. Bluetooth, settings, Wi-Fi, all those brand-specific logos for quick action can be darn near impossible to see on watches without this robust display. It's very easy to tap on these or other watch face complications. The display is very smooth in operation. I haven't seen any stutters, lag, or slowdowns. I was even able to put this to practical use in a family reunion wiffle ball game over the past weekend. While I wasn't exactly going for the Olympic gold while playing, in fairness, I'm pretty terrible at wiffle ball, apparently. But even during that, I was able to easily see the screen. It did give me a chance to see how the Ultra held up to being thrown on the ground a few times, and how it held up with a bunch of start and stop activity. So moving away from the display into like the physical nature, I will give very big credit to this watch in that even though it was covered in dirt several times throughout the event, it still works great. You may be like, Gary, it's an Ultra. It's supposed to be a rugged, robust watch. It should hopefully stand up to a family wiffle ball game. But I had something similar happen during a soccer game where I was playing parents versus kids soccer against my son's soccer team, and my Apple Watch Ultra got mud on it, and the rotating crown dial never recovered. I haven't exactly tried to break this watch with a hammer, but it feels very sturdy, and that's something I'm pretty pleased with. When you start spending this much money on a watch, you want to make sure it's going to last for the long haul. And while I don't have like spreadsheets of data on daily use or stress test of this on how it stands up to actual Ironman type events, I would say I'm pretty confident in how tough this thing will be, and I would be very surprised if this had issues if you're not the most edge case extreme use case. Long story, very long. The display and the body of the watch, which somehow that light got tied together, they're both pretty awesome. I'm also very happy with the battery life. Like I said, I just got back from traveling for a family reunion, which meant early days to the airport. Driving around to see all the extended family. I mean, we live a few states away from where we grew up, so there's a lot of travel, a lot of movements, and not a lot of time to sit around charging things. Because they said how good the battery life is on this, I specifically did not bring along my watch charger for this reunion. And I actually wrote this section of the script in the airport on my way home, and while I was sitting there typing away, the battery was at 60% life. So that's about 2.5 days of use, and more than half the life left, which I'm not sure proves that over 100 hours of battery life savings mode life, but that's pretty darn good for a smartwatch. The longer a watch can go without needing to be charged, the more likely the chance for mass adoption, again, in my opinion. I feel very confident that this could last another day and a half or 2 days at the least, and that squarely puts it into week-long work trip length without needing to bring along another proprietary charger. That's thumbs up all around for battery life. Legitimately, I'm very, very happy with that. Look, after swapping to the Galaxy Watch Ultra for a week, I've been pretty darn impressed. I like it way more than my initial impressions would have led me to believe, and honestly, I think this is a pretty darn good smartwatch. If you are somebody in the Samsung ecosystem and want a very robust watch that has awesome battery life, I think this is a good option. It is pricey, but I think it's worth the extra price for the extra features, namely that, you cannot go wrong with a smartwatch with that much battery life. Obviously, though, if you are not in the Samsung ecosystem, your ecosystem will have a good watch for you, so only get this if you are a Samsung person. I probably wouldn't upgrade from a standard Galaxy Watch to the Ultra unless you need the battery life. And if that is you, thankfully Samsung has a lot of easy trade-in options, so you don't have to spend full price for this. But what about you? Have you tried or have you considered the Samsung Galaxy Watch Ultra? Let us all know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see me not be super thrilled during an unboxing video, click here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.